You ever wake up one morning, step outside your house, and realize somebody just declared war on your peace of mind? Yeah, that was my Monday. Name's Jake. I bought my dream house last summer. Quiet street, old oak tree in the front yard, and a porch just begging for Sunday coffee. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Paid for, painted myself. And finally, after years of renting, I felt like I belonged somewhere. But there's a three-letter word that can ruin any dream neighborhood, HOA. At first, I thought they were harmless. You know, just people who sent too many emails about mailbox paint colors. I paid my dues, waved at the neighbors, even went to their barbecue where everyone talked about sprinklers and lawn, heights like it was national policy. Then came the trash. One morning, I walked out back and froze. Right behind my fence, piles of garbage. Plastic bags, old paint cans, broken furniture. It looked like a dump. I figured maybe the garbage truck missed a stop, so I called the HOA president. And yes, her name was actually Karen. "Hey, Karen," I said, trying to sound polite. "Someone dumped a bunch of trash behind my yard. Thought I should let you know." She gave me that sugary laugh. The kind that sounds sweet until you realize it's fake. "Oh, Jake, don't worry. That's just some debris from a community landscaping project. It'll be gone in a few days." Spoiler alert, it wasn't gone in a few days. It wasn't gone in 3 weeks. Every time I stepped outside, I smelled rot and paint thinner. My backyard, my sanctuary, turned into a landfill. I called again, emailed, knocked on doors. Nothing. They ghosted me, until one day I came home early from work and caught them red-handed. 2 guys in HOA shirts unloading more trash from a truck, right onto my property. "Hey!" I yelled, walking up fast. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" One guy looked up, unfazed. "Orders from the board," he said, like it was no big deal. I saw red. I stormed into the HOA office the next morning, slammed photos on the table and said, "You're dumping garbage on my property. Remove it, now!" Karen just smiled, that smug corporate smile, and said, "Technically, Jake, that area behind your fence is HOA land. So, it's not really your concern." Not my concern. That phrase kept echoing in my head all night. So I dug deeper, into everything. Property deeds, maps, HOA bylaws. And when I found the truth, my hands actually shook. That landscaping buffer they claimed, it wasn't theirs. It was mine. They'd been illegally dumping waste, including chemical drums, on my land. I picked up my phone, heart pounding, and said the calmest words I've ever spoken. "Hello, EPA? I need to report an illegal dumping site." When I hung up with the EPA, I honestly didn't think they'd take it seriously. I figured it'd be like every other government agency. Slow, distant, probably buried under paperwork. But 2 days later, a white SUV pulled up in front of my house. 2 inspectors stepped out wearing reflective vests and gloves, holding clipboards like they meant business. "Mr. Daniels?" one asked. "Yeah, that's me. We're here about the dumping complaint." I led them out back, trying not to sound too eager. But inside I was burning for justice. When they saw the piles, the rusted metal, the leaking drums, the oily patches in the soil, they exchanged a look that told me everything. "This isn't just residential waste," the inspector said quietly. "You did the right thing calling us." For the first time in weeks, I felt seen. They took photos, soil samples, measurements. Meanwhile, a few HOA board members came out, trying to look innocent. Karen strutted over, pretending she was running the show. "Excuse me," she said to the inspectors, flashing her polished smile. "This is private HOA land. You can't just waltz in here." The inspector didn't even look up. "Ma'am, this land is registered to Mr. Daniels. We confirmed it this morning." Through county records. That wiped the smile clean off her face. They told her flat out, any further dumping would be treated as an environmental violation. They'd be investigating the HOA for illegal waste, disposal, and possible contamination. Karen started stuttering. Something about miscommunication and temporary storage. But the inspectors weren't buying it. They taped off the area like a crime scene. By evening, the whole neighborhood was buzzing. People stopped me in the street. "Jake, what's going on?" "The EPA's here." I just shrugged. "Ask your HOA." That night, I sat on my porch watching Karen and a few board members argue under the streetlight. They looked nervous, for once. And that felt good. But the good didn't last. A few days later, I got a letter from the HOA, a fine. They said I'd violated community guidelines by bringing negative attention to the neighborhood. I laughed out loud when I read it. Then I noticed something. A new sign on the street corner. Community Improvement Zone. Authorized dump area. They were trying to cover their tracks. They thought if they labeled it a project, they could rewrite the story. So I made a few calls of my own. Local news, a friend at the county office, even a lawyer who specialized in environmental law. If they wanted a fight, they were going to get one. And as I gathered every document, every photo, every message from Karen, I realized something deeper. This wasn't just about trash anymore. This was about people who thought they could bully the little guy and get away with it. They were about to learn that sometimes the little guy doesn't stay quiet. The morning the news van showed up, I knew things were about to get real. A reporter stepped out with a camera crew, microphone in hand, and said, "You're Jake Daniels, right? Mind telling us what's going on with your HOA?" I didn't hold back. I showed them everything. The photos, the soil reports, the EPA warning, G notices, even the HOA fine they slapped on me for creating bad publicity. The story hit the local station that night, and by morning my phone was blowing up. Turns out I wasn't the only one. Other homeowners started reaching out. People from nearby, communities who dealt with the same HOA management company, illegal dumping, shady accounting, threats for speaking up. It was like someone pulled the curtain back, and the whole neighborhood finally saw what was behind it. 2 days later, the EPA returned with full gear, hazmat suits, trucks, the works. They started digging up the soil and hauling the waste, away under federal supervision. The smell was awful, but to me, it was the smell of accountability. Karen tried to spin it. She sent an email blast saying, "Due to unforeseen circumstances, the HOA is partnering with environmental agencies to improve our community spaces." Yeah, unforeseen circumstances, named Jake. Then came the board meeting, the one everyone in the neighborhood attended. I sat right in the front row, arms crossed, while Karen and the other board members shuffled papers and avoided eye contact. When the floor opened for questions, I stood up. "You fined me," I said, "for calling out something that could have poisoned our soil and water. You dumped chemical waste on private property. You lied to the community. So tell me, who's the real problem here?" The room went dead silent. Then one by one, people started clapping. It wasn't loud at first, but it grew. Even the usually quiet old man from across the street joined in. Within a week, Karen resigned. The board was dissolved. And that lawyer friend of mine, he helped me file a civil suit that forced the HOA to pay for every ounce of cleanup and damage. They even had to issue a public apology on the same news channel that broke the story. When the dust finally settled, I stood in my backyard, staring at the spot that used to be a dump. It was clean again. Green grass was coming back. For the first time in months, it felt peaceful. My neighbor came over and said, "Man, you really went to war with them." I smiled. "Yeah, but some fights are worth having. Because here's the truth. People like the HOA board count on you to stay quiet, to roll over, to accept their version of rules. But the second you stand up, they realize something powerful. You can't control someone who knows their rights. So if you're watching this and you're dealing with something unfair, don't stay silent. Don't back down. Because sometimes doing the right thing might just make the whole system finally clean up its own mess. If you've ever been pushed around or treated unfairly, don't stay quiet. Stand up, speak out, and take action. Because silence only helps the ones doing wrong. Hit that like button if you believe in standing your ground. Share this story to inspire someone else. And drop a comment if you've ever had to fight back for what's right.